snow pure water 要被梦里
12 million pounds of cargo and nearly 10,000 people out of Vientiane each month. Their destinations are diverse and often dangerous.
Well, now on the unfriendly activity, which was right off to the south, I don't see the same marks that were on the previous chart. But, no. But here again, it looks like perhaps we've lost that unfriendly activity.
Yeah. There are very few milk runs left in Laos. At pilot briefings, the latest reports on enemy anti-aircraft positions are as important as the weather.
Again, if you're low level, good chance you may pick up some unfriendly fire.
Pilots say the only thing worse than flying in Laos is trying to land there. By local standards, this dirt strip set between mountains is a major airport. It is now the Secret Army's headquarters in northern Laos. Big planes bring the cargo in, and from here, smaller planes and helicopters haul it to 100 different sites in the surrounding mountains. These days, much of the cargo is ammunition. Most of it parachuted to what the pilots call the friendlies. The control tower is primitive, and there are no navigation aids. Yet between daylight and dusk, this strip handles 900 takeoffs and landings each day. Some of the planes end up like this. As one pilot said, Air America is not exactly like flying for Pan American out of JFK. This was one of Air America's major operations centers until the enemy overran it. The combination of danger, superb flying, and exotic locale, plus a tradition of secrecy, has led to some highly sensational reporting about Air America. Its pilots have been called America's Flying Foreign Legion and the Lord Jims of Laos.
What is Air America?
Well, it's the same thing today that it always has been, and that is a charter air carrier whose major customer is the United States government, and it's nothing more or less than that. The average age, by the way, is 43 out here, so that they're not a bunch of apple-cheeked youngsters who are looking for big thrills. Most of them already have their thrills.
Each season, it gets worse. As an example, we're within 15 minutes now of an area. Last year was like a rest center. This year, as you know, we've already had one airplane shot down. What's the worst thing about flying out here? The mountains, the weather, or the bad guys? It's a combination of all three. We have three distinct flying seasons. It's either smoky, windy, or rainy. And any one of the three combined with the enemy creates the situation that none of us like. So you don't really have a happy season? No, there's not. How long do you plan to keep this up? Each year I say it's my last one. This is my 7th year now. What is it that brings you back? Money. No, not really. It's a big influence, of course. I have 2 daughters to put through school yet, out of my 6. So even though I'm retired, I still have to work. You like the guys you work with? Yeah, a real bunch of pros, every one of them.
We have an extreme sense of comradeship and a sense of competition that I think is not excelled in any profession.
Let's say the U.S. government put, let's say, 500,000 troops into North Vietnam to accomplish the same job that we're accomplishing here with a handful of, so to speak, American professionals.
We have a commodity to sell. We can't sell it any place in the world except right here.
And if you want to be, if you just want to be mundane about it, take this war away, or if we quit, you talk about why we do it. If most of us went back to the United States, we would be a dirty old man.
Come on, Jim, you're a dirty old man here. What are you talking about?
Well, not really.
It is a different operation, I think, than you'll find any place in the world. But On the other hand, as far as professional standards go, we do meet the requirements of any major airline, regardless of where it is throughout the world.
It is becoming tougher, but it hasn't reached the point where we're giving up by any stretch of the imagination. All of us are very talented, very, very talented, and we can avoid what they have given us so far. But it is becoming a little more difficult for us to do.
We are really all...
If it's a normal day today in Vietnam, we and our allies will kill about 200 Viet Cong. In turn, they will kill or wound about 100 Americans, and we will spend over $48 million. And all this is just a part of our ground war in Asia against communist aggression.
Right over here to the right, we discovered 2 tunnels, and we're preparing to blow them very shortly.
There's dirt around the holes. We can see that they haven't been dug too long. So this means they're not too far away.
Today in the air war, if things are normal, we will drop bombs in nearly 800 airstrikes. About 100 of these airstrikes, however, are part of the semi-secret war in Laos. This bomb, for instance, will fall on communist infiltration routes through Laos to South Vietnam and Thailand. Like the bomb, the plane, the equipment, the rockets, the war itself is American-made, supported, supplied, or directed. These planes will be flown by American-trained Laotian pilots, part of the holding action we support in Laos while we try and defeat the same enemy in Vietnam. The ground war in Laos is a bloody mixture of old and new, of swift guerrilla raids and static trench warfare, where the same troops have occupied the same muddy holes for years, with the enemy dug in only a few hundred yards away. Despite 2 formal peace treaties, the guns really haven't stopped firing in 12 years, making this Asia's longest continuous shooting war. Its great significance is that it exemplifies all our past Asian policies, blunders, hesitations, and frustrations. And for those who believe negotiations and conferences are the solution to war in Asia, it has some somber lessons. Since 1953, tiny Laos has probably been negotiated over and conferred over more often and by more people than any spot on Earth. This is the result. The tragic war in landlocked and impoverished Laos is less an ideological battle than a problem of simple geography. For the communists to carry out their infiltration of Thailand and their war in South Vietnam, they need to travel through Laos. Battalions of North Vietnamese are dug in on the Plain of Jars, the traditional invasion route to the Mekong. Chinese engineer battalions are building roads towards the border of Thailand from China's Yunnan province. 50,000 North Vietnamese move supplies down the Ho Chi Minh Trail to South Vietnam. Communist supplies are moved from Cambodia to South Vietnam along the Sihanouk Trail. The fight to stop this aggression is part of the battle for Asia. Tonight, Laos, the forgotten war. Ted Yates, NBC News, reporting.
I want to make a brief statement about Laos. It is, I think, important for all Americans to understand this difficult and potentially dangerous problem. In the last half of 1960, a series of sudden maneuvers occurred, and the communists and their supporters turned to a new and greatly intensified military effort to take over.
Since this pronouncement by President Kennedy in 1961, over $300 million in U.S. arms have gone to Laos. But the country is still dominated by the communists, and the chaos in Laos, as it was then called, still goes on. The chaos, in fact, has increased. Here at the royal capital of Luang Prabang, in addition to its other problems, Laos has 2 capitals, is the king. He's been in the palace 6 years, but still refuses to be crowned because, as soothsayers report, the stars are not yet right for the event. About the only thing that brings the king to Vientiane, the administrative capital, are royal matters, in this case the funeral of a royal prince. Shielded from the sun, the monarch leads the mourners. With him, royal princes, behind the feudal hierarchy of Laos. First, the Royal Officers Corps. They run the country, sometimes well, sometimes crookedly, invariably at odds with each other. The important Buddhist monks. And the representatives of 60 tribes that add the element of ethnic diversity to the country's political confusions. The funeral cortege passes Vientiane's greatest edifice. Begun as the Laotian Victory Monument, the project sits abandoned. Probably because there has been no such thing as victory in Laos for anyone. It is now called, more appropriately, the Monument to the Dead. Most of its cement was stolen from U.S. aid. Royal funerals are one of the events that attract all of Vientiane's diplomatic corps, one of Asia's best stocked. Among the world's great fantasies is Laotian neutrality. But this myth enables all the enemy diplomats to mingle socially, including those fighting the hardest in Laos. Both North and South Vietnam attend a day's funeral. And bedecked in proletarian finery, the jaunty dean of the diplomatic corps, the communist Chinese ambassador. When I use a word, Humpty Dumpty said in Alice in Wonderland, it means just what I choose it to mean, neither more nor less. In the fantasy of Laos, the word neutrality is used much.
Mongolian monument do Pe Mong y lu chờ của chia Pore rồng dị xia dầu xia